Wow, 2020 really was a crazy year. We weren't able to get out camping like we'd planned until the middle of June, but we did take out our new camper then and visit several brand new areas for us in the state. This video is to look back at our favorite 5 hikes and why they're our favorites, and hopefully it'll be useful to help you as well as us decide where to go in 2021. So, here we go. Number 5, Jemez Falls Hike. This hike leads from either a parking lot for a half a mile hike, or you can hike from the campground, which is the way we like to do it. We've done this hike several times, but it's so beautiful through a beautiful ponderosa forest, and it's an easy hike. Anybody can do it. And there's a waterfall. You can't beat a waterfall. So, number 5, Jemez Falls Campground hike. Number 4, Jack's Creek Trail. This trail starts from Jack's Creek Campground up in the Pecos Wilderness. This was our first time visiting there, and it is one of our top campground picks for the entire year. The trail leads from the horse campground area and leads up to the most beautiful forests and views I've ever seen. This is a huge backpacking area. Most of the people we saw, which were dozens of backpackers, were heading up to Pecos Baldy Lake or Truchas Peak or one of the other huge mountain peaks in the area. Pecos Baldy Lake is 7.2 miles from the trailhead, but this day we were doing as a day hike, so we only hiked up to 2.5 mile mark to where Jack's and Beatty's trails fork off. It was beautiful, and we will definitely do it again. We'd like to do this as a backpacking trip.
Nice view?
Yeah, nice, real nice.
We made it to the junction.
This trail is a moderate hike if you're doing as a day hike, but if you're going all the way to Pecos Baldy Lake, you'll find that it is pretty strenuous. The trail begins at over 9,000 feet, and Pecos Baldy is at around 11,600 feet. So it's pretty steep incline, so keep that in mind. It is beautiful and well worth seeing. Number 3, West Fork Trail from the Santa Barbara Campground, which is on the north side of the Pecos Wilderness near the town of Penasco. Wow, just wow. I have never seen so many beautiful butterflies and wildflowers as we saw on this hike. This is a popular entry point for backpackers. The campground has a huge backpacker parking lot, and when we stayed there for 3 days, we saw a constant stream of backpackers coming in and out of the wilderness on this trail. We only did this one as a day hike again. We did about 3.5 miles in and then back out again. And I've got to say, this is probably the prettiest hike we did all summer. We were there in July and everything was in bloom. The trail follows along the Santa Barbara Creek, and there were a lot of people fishing along the creek, but most of the people we saw were backpackers. It is absolutely beautiful, from the aspen groves to the waterfalls, the stream, the spectacular mountains, just absolutely beautiful. This is definitely one of the prettiest hikes we did, and we will definitely do this again. We're thinking about doing this as a backpacking trip once again. I just can't express to you how pretty this hike is. And the altitude was not as steep on this first part of the trail. It started at around 8,500 feet, I believe. And we did not, even in the 3.5 miles, gain more than 500 to 800 feet. It was not that steep. There's also the Middle Fork and East Fork. If you're backpacking and you make this a big loop hike, that would take you at least 3 days, I would think, if you're going to enjoy the area. Number 2, Mora Flats by Hamilton Mesa and Rosiata Trails. This was a 2-day backpacking trip, our first backpacking trip we've done in 6 years. We decided to do this as a backpacking trip just to get back into backpacking, but also because the Pecos Wilderness absolutely blew us away on the Jacks Creek Trail and the West Fork Trail that I just described on this video.
The ridgeline here.
So this was a
views.
trip that we could have done as a day hike. It's only about 4.5 to 5 miles down to Mora Flats. And so some people do this as a day hike. We decided to do it as a backpacking trip, check out all our gear, see how we liked backpacking again since it had been so long, and check out more areas of the Pecos Wilderness. This is such a beautiful area, and this was not a difficult backpacking trip. It was great for a beginner backpacking trip, so I highly recommend it for that reason. The elevation gain, we started at over 9,000 feet, went up to about 9,800, dropped down a few times, maybe a few hundred feet, and then back up again. So overall, it was maybe 1,000 feet gain, but it was up and down. So we were never higher than 9,800 feet. The views were spectacular. You walk along a ridge line overlooking
And Ron has found us a perfect camp spot. There's a nice fire ring with rocks, a nice stool over there. It's a log to sit on, and a couple of nice flat clean places to put our tent.
We found a great camping area set up, and we were there just in time and set up for the rain to come. It rains in the Pecos Wilderness every afternoon during the summer, so we had our shelter set up and were able to get out of the rain. And then the sun came out, and it was just a beautiful day to explore the entire valley there at Mora Flats. Once again, this is a great area. It was probably 8 miles, 8.5 miles round trip. You could do it as a day hike, but we highly recommend it for backpacking. Just absolutely gorgeous.
And the number one favorite hike of the year turned out to be the Ron and John Lake Catherine Santa Fe Baldy on a 3-day backpacking trip. The hike starts at Santa Fe ski area, about 10,000 feet, and you go up from there. At some point over chats and beers, John had mentioned he wanted to do Lake Catherine, and I had stated I wanted to do Santa Fe Baldy, and since both of them are right there, we decided to plan a date between his stuff and my stuff. And as you climb up the mountain, you get into the aspens pretty quick, and it gets pretty scenic. There was still some residual smoke from the western forest fires this year, so the views weren't quite what they could have been, but they were still pretty awesome. As you can see, both of us were probably a little overpacked. We hadn't did a backpacking trip in several years for more than 2 nights. The last time we did that was Grand Canyon, and Slept a few times between here and there, but yeah, so we probably had a little bit more gear than what we needed to, and slowed us down a little bit on the way up, but everything worked out and had a great time. So as you continue to climb, it got a little bit rockier, and then you come up to the junction to head up to Lake Catherine or go elsewhere. And as somebody chose to use their Sharpie to annotate which way to go, because I guess they didn't know what the trail name was, they marked it. Makes it easy for all.
Skyline Trail 251. Right there.
As John so astutely points out.
Emphasis on what you're doing.
So we go ahead and head on up Skyline Trail, and as you get up to the junction, turn off to either go up to Baldy or to continue on Lake Catherine. There were some people that were going up to Baldy for the Santa Fe Baldy for the day trip. We went ahead and went on down Lake Catherine so that way we could set up camp. Get up to that point, and there's some switchbacks that you have to go down. I don't remember what the count was, but we did count them on the way out eventually, or maybe on the way back from our loop to after we did Santa Fe Baldy. There were several, as you can see here. After you get through the switchbacks, you go through some more rock fields, as you can see down there at the bottom from that view, and then you eventually get up to the lake. Prior to getting to the lake, you come across these rock walls here, fairly substantial, and then to the opposite of the rock walls is where rock had fallen off and just a screed field basically. First look at the lake. When you look across, what I'm pointing at there is the saddle that we're going to try to climb up tomorrow to go up to Santa Fe Baldy from where we're camping and up and do the full loop around. It's about 4 miles, so it won't be too bad. It's just a matter of getting there. And this is the following morning. So as we started climbing up the hill, it turned out to be substantial. Took a little while. There's no real defined trail. You kind of make your own, and once you get up to the top, you can find a trail, and then they'll take you to the actual summit of Santa Fe Baldy, which we get to here shortly. But looking back, you can still see the smoke, but awesome views nonetheless. The mound pile up there in the background that I might get back to, that's the actual summit, but we came down along that ridge line there to get to where we're at. Good time, good views. Would have been, again, better without the smoke. Back behind us is actually the rock pile at the summit, a little over 12,400 feet. Or excuse me, 12,600 feet. And believe it or not, you get good cell signal up there. Shot nows from the following morning. We kept hearing stuff as we were breaking down camp. Sounded like a single rock hitting something. Turned out to be a bighorn sheep. And unfortunately in this video you may or may not be able to see it because of what I was using, but there were 4 or 5 fairly good sized sheep, and they definitely made the hillside look much easier to climb than John and I were doing. That's what we kept hearing. Those two kept ramming each other, and it's just a single pop of the horns, and then we were looking and looking and looking. Finally we found them, but they hung around for about an hour before they decided to go somewhere else, so we were a little bit late getting out where we wanted to go. Plenty of water sources along the way, so all you had to do is fill and filter. Didn't have to pack in all your water, so that made it very convenient. Great getaway for the boy trip. So John and I both had a great time. And that's probably why this is number 1 for this year. These were our top 5 hikes of the year, and we recommend each and every one of them, and they're all very doable. Just plan, prepare, and get out there.
So if you enjoyed this video, give us a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button if you want to see more videos like this. And as I always say, get out there and hug a tree.